Recording in progress.
Well, thank you so much for attending, and I'm going to try and be as efficient as possible with the time. We do have a guest that is coming at 12:15, and we'll be here till 12:30. And please feel free to raise your little electronic hand at any time during the session so that I'll pay attention to that. Or you can also put it into the chat. I will try and watch that as well. I'm sending the Qualtrics link one more time. It says Qualtrics in the link, so please make sure you complete that before we're done. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Right. Again, I'm Jeannie Wagner, the Director of Field Education. And today's purpose is going to be covering a lot of ground. Here's sort of the agenda for today. But I want to make sure that once you're finished with the program, that all your questions have been answered. So please don't hesitate to raise your hand because I want to make sure that I'm meeting your needs in this program. So what are the goals of the field practicum? Well, our accrediting body, the Council on Social Work Education, calls field education the pedagogy of social work education, which basically means it's really where you're given the opportunity to demonstrate all the competencies that you've learned in your program and that you are learning, because I know you're not done with the program when you're in field. But it also helps reinforce the purpose of the profession, the values, the ethics. You develop competencies in your practicum, and you're able to provide some of the knowledge that you learned in your classes. And it's experiential. So it's rather than sitting in the classroom learning theory, you're actually practicing it. So it's really the best way to learn in any kind of setting. This is a link to the field program website. I know you've all been on there because you're starting field this semester. So you filled your field application out. Here's a screenshot, and I just wanted to highlight that the FAQs were updated on January 2nd, so take a look at those, as all the field hour requirements. They're a little complicated the rest of this academic year for several reasons. One is because we had a reduction in hours with the pandemic, and we've continued to maintain that reduction. It will be through summer semester. But prior to the pandemic, our program had voted on reducing the field hours because we really over-required hours in our program for many, many years. And that got rolled out in fall of 2021. And so kind of converged with the reduction in the CSWE approved pandemic hours. So that's why it looks very complicated. It will go back to a more normal schedule once fall of 2022 starts. And if you want any of the links on the right, so you see a BSW and MSW, I will have this PowerPoint posted on there this week, so you'll be able to go back and review it if you have any other questions. You should be assigned a field liaison who help place you in your practicum. And here's a picture of all of our team. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew the difference between a field liaison and a field instructor. So the liaison is actually the person who's in between the agency and the student, and the person that works at the university. And so this is a person who coordinates your placement. They're responsible for overseeing your placement. They'll be available for information and consultation throughout your semesters that you're in field. And they'll also meet with you and your field instructor at the agency. We have been doing those virtually lately. They're called site visits. Sometimes, maybe as you move through the placement, they might actually come to the agency. And any kind of difficulties that you have, we intervene and we try and resolve problems so that you can be successful in field. And we will review all the field documents that you submit. And we'll talk a little bit more in a few minutes about what those forms are, what your responsibility is, and how you get graded in field. And ultimately, your field liaison is the one that calculates your grade. So they don't randomly assign a grade. It's based on an actual mathematical calculation, and I'll walk you through that. Please remember to check your UWM Panther mail every single day. You know I send a lot of things out. If they're job ads, it will be clearly marked in the subject line, and you can go ahead and delete those if you're not interested in jobs. But most of the other messages are really related to field or opportunities. So just glance at them so you don't miss something, because unfortunately students get quite upset with themselves if they miss an important email. And that's our primary mode of communication since we have a large program. Your agency field instructor is the person who is responsible for overseeing your work at the practicum. Now, some people have an agency field instructor who's their primary, and then they have a task supervisor who helps guide you in your kind of day-to-day activities. That's perfectly normal to have that. A lot of times the agency field instructor is maybe not available every single day that you're there to give you, minute by minute instructions. So you may have a team that helps guide you. But you do have to get 1 hour of, approximately an hour of weekly supervision. And that should be scheduled on a certain day. You're supposed to put that at that time on your learning plan when you do it. And that really is an opportunity for you to prepare to ask some questions regarding your duties, things you've observed that you have questions about, expanding your understanding of the agency programs and how they interface with clients. So you're the one that should take the lead and, making some notes to yourself on what you want to talk about in supervision. They also are the person that's going to give you feedback throughout the semester. And they're the ones that are going to evaluate how you're doing in the practicum in a formal evaluation form. They are not paid, they're volunteering their time to help support you in your learning. So again, please feel free to raise your hand if you have a question during the program so I can answer it in a timely manner. So undergraduate students are going to complete 2 consecutive semesters in one agency. So you'll be in your placement both in spring and in summer. Graduate students that do not have the 721 field course exemption, those are foundation students, you're going to do 2 semesters in one agency. So you would be doing spring and summer, and then 2 semesters in a separate agency. So you have a real rich experience in field that goes over 4 semesters. Graduate students that have a 721 exemption are normally going to do 1 3-semester placement in one agency. So you would be there for essentially a full year. There are some exceptions to all this for grad students, but I'm not going to get into the exceptions right now. We'll talk a little bit about those in a few minutes. A block placement is an option for some graduate students, and it's got to be approved. And what essentially that means is you're completing 2 field courses, you're registering for 2 and completing 2 in one semester. And normally those are for school social work students. It sometimes works out well for them to do that because in school settings, you have to complete a lot more hours in the practicum normally than other students do because of the way the school requires you to adhere to their schedule, which is more weeks. Summer is a semester for our program. So if you're in a consecutive, placement, you're including summer semester. And your semester is over when you complete all the course requirements. So the course requirements are everything that you need to do. And not just the hours, it's everything else too. So sometimes you'll be doing more hours than are required. What I'll show you in a few minutes here is the minimum required hours. Also make sure that you're registered for the correct course. So for BSW students, you should be registered for 421 and also a corresponding integrated field seminar, also called a lab on pause. And so those start next week. They will be online for the first week only. You'll have to log in at the designated time. I know I'm doing one at 2 o'clock on Tuesday. And the other one is at 5 o'clock, I believe. And I can't recall if that's Thursday or not, but you're going to log in. I sent an email out to my students, and Jenny Taylor McBride, you'll be hearing from her too. She's the one doing 421. Your second course is going to be in the summer, and that'll be 422. And if you want to take an elective course, it would be $423, but you got to get permission to register for that. And so graduate students, 721 is the first course for those that don't have advanced standing. And 722 is students start in field with advanced standing, or some of you may have a 721 field course exemption. Then you would start in 722. 721 does also have a corresponding field seminar. So you'd be taking that with either Crystal Carter or Thomasina Jenkins in the fall. And then you'll have 2 advanced courses, 821 and 822. 921 is an elective course, and that's also the course that's taken by any of our postgraduate MSW students. So if some of you are category, oops, somebody unmuted their mic, you would be registered for 921 for your postgraduate. So you do need to take a concurrent methods course with your field practicum. So BSW students this semester, you'll be taking 421, which is your field, and then 410. So you'll be in methods with Livy Malley. And then next semester in summer, you'll be taking 422 field and 427 methods. MSW students, your schedules can vary. So most of you are either going to be in 709 or 711 this semester. If you haven't seen your faculty advisor lately, you should make sure you check in with them so you're on track to complete your graduation requirements. Every semester we end up with students who haven't done that, and then when they think they're graduating, they find out they're not because they've missed a course. So always better to know now before semester starts next week that you're on target, and especially if you've made any changes or have altered from the curriculum design or plan that was developed by your advisor. We do have a safety manual on the website, and we'd like you to take a look at that. You know, it's easy reading, but it gives you just some basic information about personal safety. You know, you're going to be in, you know, field placements that are maybe in communities you're not familiar with. You're working with clients that have histories of maybe behavioral issues, substance abuse, and, you know, things happen that we're all faced with as social workers. So you need to know how to best protect yourself and things you can do to avoid any difficulties. So take responsibility for your personal safety. Also, your agency may have some expectations around this or some basic training or orientation. So you want to ask about that as well when you start your practicum. You should also make sure that you know the agency operating policies and procedures, and also understand the requirements for reporting of child abuse and neglect, as well as older adults. We are mandated reporters as social workers, and so these situations may occur that you may have to make a report. So that would be a conversation that you would have with your field instructor. So these are just some of the really critical expectations. These are the ones that of all of the problems that students may experience in field, and from my history with the field program, these are the most common areas that end up being an issue. Unfortunately, sometimes it's such an issue that the student is asked to be, you know, to leave the agency. You want to consider this like even though it's not a job, you want to conduct yourself as a professional like you're in a job. So you want to make sure that you're, you know, adhering to professional standards. You want to have very good communication, both verbally and written. You need to make sure that you're communicating, especially if there's any difficulties you're facing or your schedule has been disrupted in some way. You have an agreed upon schedule and now you need to renegotiate it, things like that. If you're going to be late for some kind of emergency you're having, you know, early communication is so critical. So really, really pay attention to that, because that often is the thing that will prevent a student from being successful in field. Being on time is very important. You know, manage your schedule in such a way that, you know, you're allotting for traffic and other extenuating responsibilities that you have. So, you know, be as early as you can. Make sure you're maintaining confidentiality. Everything you learn at the agency regarding clients is confidential. Even their story is confidential. So you don't want to be bringing their story outside of the agency. We've had situations where students have shared client stories in a class when asked to, provide examples, and found out that there was somebody in that class who recognized the story as one of their family members. So that's why, even not saying the name or the location of the agency, sometimes people can figure out who you're talking about. And, there's no stupid questions. Please ask them. I get questions all the time. I field about 100 emails a day. We have a lot of resources and field on the website. So please take it upon yourself to go to the website first to try and get answers to those questions. But if you can't find them, then don't hesitate to reach out first to your liaison. And I'm the backup for the liaisons. Questions so far? You're a quiet group. We had, I think, 60 last night, and lots of questions. Okay, so one of the things you're going to ask about is the dress code. You may see people wearing casual clothes, and I wouldn't necessarily assume that that's what you should be wearing. You should ask your field instructor what's appropriate. Normally business casual in most agencies is appropriate, unless maybe you're working in a youth serving program or you're doing homeless outreach, then maybe definitely casual clothes would be more appropriate. You also want to find out the best way to communicate. So if there is a situation where you're going to be late or you're sick, do they want you to call on the phone? Do they want you to send an email? Do they want you to text message? And how much in advance do they need to know? You don't want to do it like if you're supposed to be there at 9, you don't want to be sending message, at 9 o'clock, because they don't have an opportunity to provide coverage then for whatever clients you were serving. So be as, communicative as possible, as early as possible, especially again, if you're going to be sick or late. And do note that you will probably be calling your clients on the phone. We haven't really evolved in a lot of social service agencies to text messaging, which I know is for many of you, your primary mode of communication. But really connecting with people either face-to-face or over the phone does provide a much richer communication with clients, and clients need that. So we had a student that asked not too long ago, when she was supposed to be contacting all these students that, all the clients that had completed services in the last 6 months, to check on them to see how they were doing. And they said, call. And the student said, what do you mean call? You mean text message? And they said, no, call. And the student was taken back because the student said, well, I don't use the phone. And we've heard that before. So it will be an opportunity for you to get out of your comfort zone and connect with your clients in a different way. At the beginning of each semester, you're going to arrange your schedule. So this is where you're going to talk to your field instructor about what, your class schedule now. So when you're available to be there at the agency, and you want to begin to map out the semester so that you can try and be done with summer semester by early May, ideally. And the reason for that is because the summer semester is only 12 weeks. So if you're doing 16 hours a week in spring semester and you don't get finished until just before summer semester starts, you're going to have to increase your hours from 16 to probably 18 or 20, which you may not be able to do given your work schedule. So it's a good idea to try and manage your schedule in such a way that you'll have everything finished by maybe May 1st. I know that's not always possible. It's not required that you do it that way. But, I think students who do it that way are much less stressed. It makes their life a lot less complicated. So think about that as a plan. And you are expected to keep your schedule unless something, happens where, all of a sudden you have caretaking responsibilities, maybe, and then you need to renegotiate it with your field instructor. But do note that field instructors may have very specific requirements, because maybe there's staffing days and that you have to be at, or court hearings that you need to be present for. So you need to definitely have good communication there. Also, if you are planning on being gone, even over spring break, you need to make sure your field instructor is aware of that well in advance. There's a little different approach when we look at the academic schedule and field responsibilities. So field pretty much continues on. And there are even some programs that make students sign up for some of the holiday coverage. Not too many, but there are a few. So you do need to make sure that, you're telling them or asking permission if it's an unexpected situation, if you're not planning on being there for that spring break week. It's great to take some time off to regroup, but field instructors get a little annoyed if they don't find out about it until the week before. So just again, be very planful in your communication. Or if you are hoping to go to the Austria program this summer for summer 1, you're going to want to make sure that your field instructor is aware of that very soon. So you can essentially complete field or start field. Well, some of you may have already started up to 2 weeks before a semester or end 2 weeks before. If it's more than that, you just need to make sure that everyone's in agreement with it. So that would be your field instructor and your field liaison. So you want to, just communicate with them about that. But you do need to take responsibility for managing your schedule and responsibilities in field, because it's different than going to an academic course where, they remind you, okay, tomorrow the assignment's due. You're all on sort of your own schedule because you all start at different times and you're completing different amount of hours each week. So you have to take responsibility for managing when your stuff is due. We do give you some basic timeframes, but that may or may not be relevant to when you actually started your field practicum. Any questions about that? Okay, so what is included in your field hours? Well, your seminar attendance. So you get 1 hour credit for every seminar you attend. So if you attend all of them, it's about 15 in the semester. It's about 15 hours. You get credit again for 1.5 hours for the field orientation. You could put that on your timesheet. For MSW students, you're going to have field assignments to do. Now, most of those will be done while you're at the practicum, because they may be like social histories you're writing, or assessments, treatment plans, running a group. Those would all be field assignments. But if you do have an assignment that you'd like to complete, that's something you're not doing, something that you're not doing in the course of your practicum hours, then you can count the time you're completing those at home, but a maximum of 10 hours for the semester for that. And make sure your field instructor is okay with that. Oh, I'm sorry, my dog my nurse came over to give my dog a shot. So the other dog is not a happy girl because she's not getting the attention. So any of you who have 2 animals know how that goes. Any activities you're completing for the agency, and that may mean that you're going to a meeting in the community. It may mean a conference they send you to, or in-service training that they are requiring that you attend. All that counts towards your field hours. Anything you're doing for the agency, certainly the time you're getting supervision, it also counts. Any questions? Looks like we had a chat here. As a post MSW for school social work, what do the hours look like if I'm doing employment-based field? Yes, so that's something, Sarah, you want to talk to Keandra Higgins about, your field liaison, because each postgraduate student is kind of handled individually. We have different models for that. So talk to Keandra about it, and she'll be able to help guide you through that. Okay. So here's the field hours. This is why I said it was a little complicated. It's complicated for me trying to navigate through all this. So you can see at the very top is the spring semester, the first, second column here. So you can go ahead and make sure that you're completing the required courses. So there's several, for obviously undergrads, you're in 421 or 422, and we're at the 170 hours, which is a reduced hours for the semester. that is going up in the fall semester, but hopefully you'll all be graduated by then. You'll be done with field, because in the fall it's going up to the 215, which and before that it was 256 before we dropped it. So it's really a lot less. So it's a really good time for you to be in field. And for the foundation students, you can see there's different credits, different hours. So I'm not going to go through all these, but you need to really pay close attention. I also sent this out in an email. So you're going to want to make sure that you're working with your liaison too. And we're trying to, monitor how many hours, because there's different credits for some of the advanced courses also. And the credits correspond to a different amount of hours you need to complete. So Emma, yes, going to a staff meeting would count towards hours. Anything you're doing for your field practicum. Now, if you're in an employment-based field, your field liaison should be meeting with you and your supervisor there early and really talk about all these things, because employment-based field is a bit different, but you still have the same requirements, but there is some pre-planning that needs to be done to help outline what you need to do to meet the educational requirements for that. But if you're not in an employment-based field, then anything you're doing while you're at the agency is field hours. Not if you go out to lunch, that's not field hours. So if you take a half-hour lunch and you're in the lunchroom and you're not working, that's not field hours, or you go out to lunch. But most things, even driving to a client's house, you count that time. Okay. So I just wanted to highlight, this is really important. The field hours on the previous slide were minimums, okay? So sometimes this comes up where students say, well, I'm done with my hours, but they haven't done anything else that's required for field. You have to remember that field is a course like any course, and it has a comprehensive list of requirements. So you're done with the semester. So whether you're in 421 this semester, 721 or 722, you're done when you finished everything. So in that process, you may have accrued more hours than are required, but you can't carry them over to the next semester because that's a separate field course. So you need to manage your time, your deadlines really closely, so that you don't find that you have put a lot of hours in, but you've not done any of the other field requirements. So you're extending your time at the agency for this semester. So again, mapping out everything in advance, laying it out on a calendar, visual guides are very good and helpful. So if you complete, and these are the field requirements for everybody, every semester, minimum hours that are required by the previous chart on the slide, your learning plan, your midterm progress report, there's a self-evaluation that you do, and then your field instructor completes their portion. If you're an MSW student, you have field assignments to do every semester. I'll talk a little bit about those later on. Your final evaluations, you have a self-evaluation to do. It's online now, and your field instructor has an evaluation. And then you have a field hour verification form, which has to be signed off on. Once you've done all those things, then you can proceed to the next semester as long as you're registered for summer. So assuming you're getting all this done by May 1st, then you're registered for summer, you can go ahead and roll right into your summer semester and start working on the summer requirements without special permission. So you can send your field liaison an email and just say, I'm done with all my requirements. Everything is uploaded in Canvas and I'm starting my summer semester, just so everyone is aware of what your schedule is like. And again, the reason I recommend that you try and get done earlier is so you can ease the amount of hours you need to do for summer semester. Summer semester gets pretty crazy. Any questions about any of that? Okay. So these are, again, the field documents, and these are all located on the field website. Some field liaisons have them on their Canvas field document site. Now you should have gotten an email saying that you've been added to the field document site for your assigned liaison. If you have not, then please send your liaison an email and saying, I don't have access to the field document site. It's not a semester site because each liaison has their own field document site that they keep from semester to semester. So we just need to add students to it manually. So make sure you get added on there, and you'll see Dropbox is a very simple system. You're going to upload your learning plan into the learning plan Dropbox. You're going to, as a midterm one, your assignments. And I will tell you that Canvas is a bit tricky in that if you upload a document, let's say into the field assignment Dropbox, and then you upload a second field assignment, you may not be able to see the first one, but we can see it. I don't know why they have it set up that way, so students don't have the ability to see earlier assignments they've submitted, but don't worry, it's there, and we will have access to it. And then again, there's the final evaluations that you're going to upload. Now you're going to do yours, and your field instructor is going to do theirs online on a Qualtrics, but you have to follow the instructions, because what you're supposed to do is download it to a PDF before you click submit. Once you click submit, it goes into our database, which we need for our accreditation. But you need to download it into a PDF and then click submit. So make sure you do that, and remind your field instructor as well. And then the last one is a verification of hours. If your agency has a form that they use for verification of field hours, you can use that instead of the one that we have. We don't want you to do two of them, but ours, is probably easier to fill out. So, questions about any of that?
I just want to make sure. So for
Pardon me, I can't hardly hear you. What'd you say?
can you hear me now?
I'm not sure who was talking, but
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
yes.
Okay. For post MSW school social work, there's no field assignments.
There might be that, again, 921 has different types of requirements.
Okay.
So it's negotiated with your field liaison.
So Keandra would have talked to me if there were some.
Yes, talk to Keandra about all the requirements for your 921.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So here's some dates. Again, these are just some of them are estimates. You are starting the semester on 124. That's for everybody. If you haven't started, some of you may have a delayed in starting your placement. That's okay. It happens every semester. Don't worry about it. You can catch up. But some of you started early too. So, but the official start of the semester is 124. And your field seminar, if you're in one, starts then and that week. After you complete between 20 and 40 hours of field, you're going to complete the learning plan with your field instructor at the agency. And basically that's going to map out what you require, what you're going to be doing for the semester. So those are the times that you really want to talk about. When am I going to get my own clients assigned to me? Am I going to be able to attend the court hearings or, whatever happens to be? Am I going to be able to co-facilitate groups? Again, there's many different types of tasks and different types of agencies, but those are just some examples. And you're going to want to put that on the learning plan and, what you're going to do to demonstrate competencies. So that needs to get uploaded first. Don't forget about that, because you do get docked with points if you don't submit stuff in a reasonable time frame. Mid-semester, so that particular document would be, I didn't put, 20 to 40 hours would be normally after your first, 2 to 3 weeks, you should have that done. Mid-semester progress report, and it's very brief, and it's really for you to evaluate how things are going, and then your field instructor gives you feedback. It's not graded, but you have to submit it or you get docked. For any document you don't submit in field, it's 3 percentage points off your total score. So make sure you don't forget these documents, because it's, again, you're not going to a class where we're reminding you all the time. In the middle of the semester, if you start on time and you're kind of rolling along as scheduled, you'd be in the middle of March, and that would be the time you'd be starting to look at your midterm. The final evaluation is done after you've submitted everything. You've got to have all your other documents completed before you can do the final. And if you're a graduate student, you have to have completed the field assignments before you do your final evaluation. Has to be in that order, because they're supposed to use the field assignments in part to evaluate you. And here's the last day of field. However, your field liaison will communicate with you all individually about when they want you to submit all of your semester documents. And the reason it's different is because some field liaisons have more students than others, so they need more time to go through everything. So some of your field liaisons may be close to that 5/13 date. Others will give you another week or so. So they're the person that will let you know when you need to submit everything. Questions about any of this? Oh, we're rolling along pretty good here. Okay. So these are our entire field program is set up in alignment with the CSWE, Council on Social Work Education, field competencies, because this is how you're evaluated. This is how we have to respond to our accreditation as to how students do in these various areas. So that's why everything goes into a database, because it aggregates data and produces reports, because these are the categories in which your field instructor is evaluating you, and you're also doing your self-evaluation. So you'll see this language throughout field. I already mentioned the learning plan as your roadmap. And again, you're doing that with your field instructor in the first 20 to 40 hours. You're going to upload it. Also, let me just say about uploading forms. If you have difficulty doing signatures on the form electronically, and you are hand signing things, then please do not upload for multiple page forms into it with individual pages, because it's very difficult for us to manage that. So upload the document that's on your desktop. And then if you need the form signed off on separately, just go ahead and sign the form, have your field instructor sign it, and then upload. You can even just take a picture of the signature page and just upload your picture from your phone. That's fine. And you've uploaded the document before that doesn't have the signatures on it. Do it that way so it's easier for everybody. Or you can make a PDF. I don't know, most of you, if you can sign electronically with your signature with a PDF app, which is what I use. So either way works for us. Okay, so, and again, everything is going on the Canvas site. Don't email them to us. The other thing I just want to say is if you submit documents to your field instructor and time goes by and they're not getting them back to you because they're really busy, you can go ahead and upload them in Canvas. So we know you did your midterm progress report or your learning plan or your evaluation. We know you did it. So you're not going to get docked for being late. And then you can get the signatures later afterwards and submit that as a separate document, the signature page. So here's just an example on, how would you rate yourself? Or I'm sorry, this is the learning plan. So this is some examples on how you would document this particular standard, demonstrates ethical and professional behavior. So this student put for that competency in their learning plan, I will learn and implement the professional standards of my agency around written communication, let's see, text message, etc. I will use weekly supervision to discuss ethical conflicts that may arise for myself, as well as communicate ethical dilemmas that occur at the agency. I will practice using the ethical decision-making model with my supervisors. So those are good examples of what you're going to do in your learning plan to demonstrate these competencies. Because a learning plan aligns with the evaluation. I mentioned the field supervision. If you find that your field instructor is blowing you off for supervision, talk to them about it and let them know that it's required. And if that's not resolved, then you need to let your field liaison know, because you do need to get supervision. Now, some questions arise is, well, what if, we go to meetings together, we go see clients together, so we're in the car, but it's not really like a scheduled supervision. As long as you're getting your needs met in supervision, And sometimes that's the way it happens. I supervise a lot of social work students in my career, and sometimes that would be where we'd have supervision, was on a route to court hearing or to a case review or something, or on the way to a client's home. So that's fine, but just make sure you're getting it every week in whatever kind of setting you're getting it. And also look at your field instructor if you are new to the field. I know you're not all new to the field. Some of you have been around for a while in social work. But if you're new to the field, this may be your first professional reference. And if you're an undergrad student, you may need their reference for grad school. So you really want to develop a good rapport with your field instructor. I have kept a relationship with my field students for decades in many cases. I still hear from them. And I was a reference for many of my field students for a long time. So, it's an important relationship to have. And you can find that some of field instructors will be really good mentors for you as you continue in your career. So graduate students are the ones that are doing field assignments. I will talk a little bit more about the field seminars for undergrads, and you'll learn a little bit more about that. But for graduate students, you're doing these assignments, and there's a web page on the MSW site, on the field web page. You'll click on the MSW page. You'll see on the right, they'll say field assignments. And there is a lot of options for assignments. Most of them really pair really well with what you're doing at the agency. So it's not supposed to be busy work. There's things like, social histories, home studies, treatment plans, developing a group, running a group. Maybe you're a macro student and it's, doing a grant proposal or helping rewrite policies and procedures or do marketing materials. There's a whole bunch of options out there. So take a look at that sometime this week or next week and begin to formulate what field assignments you think would be helpful to you in your learning. And also talk to your field instructor about it, because these may be things they're assigning you to do. So, you're getting credit for doing them. Do make sure that you don't include any identifying information on there when you turn them in. So if it's a client document, you have to change the name and all that identifying information. But go look on there, because there's a lot of options. But think of the field assignments as something to really increase your learning. So that's why we make it very flexible to adapt to different students, because you're all at different places. And then there's also a thing called an alternate assignment, where you can recommend that you want to do this assignment, maybe something you want to research to learn more about. And that's fine. You just have to make sure that your field liaison, that you communicate with them and tell them what your proposal is, and your field instructor. So the field instructor reviews the assignment after you complete it and signs off on it. There's a cover sheet that you need to download for each assignment before you submit it. Don't forget to do that, because if we don't see that cover page, we don't know what assignment you're completed and how many points. So there's a point value of anywhere from 1 point to 5 points. So if you're doing 1 point assignments, which are small assignments, that would be 5 that you'd submit. You may do a 1 point and a 2 point and a 3 point. Well, that puts you a little over the 5, but that's okay. Or you might do a major assignment, and that's all 5 points. And that's something you're working on all semester. So you do have to submit a proposal for a major assignment if you want to do that. Take a look at them and start to think about what you might like to do. Questions about that? So fields, BSW students, you're doing your assignments in the field seminar itself. And you will have, I'll talk about that in a minute, but you'll have a lot of information about that next week when you go to your first class. So this is, again, just covering the field assignments, and this is part of the way you're demonstrating your competencies, and you should talk about them in supervision. And submitting them all before the final evaluation is due is really important. Okay, well, this is an example of how you're one of the competencies on the field evaluation that you will be seeing when you do your self-evaluation, and your field instructor does theirs. So you start the evaluation process by completing your self-eval online, downloading it before you click submit, sending it to your field instructor. So you initiate the process, then they review it, and then they work on their version of it's the same exact questions and categories. The only difference is the title of the form is different. So it's the same thing, and they're also going to rate you on 19 categories, and it's going to be these categories here, and I'll talk a little bit more about those in a second. And these color-coded things are the difference in courses, and so it's not going to quite look like that. When you go in to do your evaluation, you're going to click what course you're in, and then only the competencies for that course will pop up. So we've streamlined it last semester to make it much more user-friendly for students and field instructors. So you're not seeing all these other competencies to confuse you. So what you're going to do now, hopefully you're not going to have many unable to observe or that you didn't have an opportunity to do those, because we want you to have opportunities to think about all the competencies. And sometimes you had to be a little creative about how you think about them. So like, for example, the research competency, well, are you doing consumer satisfaction surveys? You collecting data? That's all research. So you had to think of it from a broader context. And then you could see these categories. So most students, especially the first semester, you're probably going to be meeting basic expectations. Exceeding would be something that you really went above and beyond. And what you need to do is that you need to be really specific in the narrative comments, explaining why you rated yourself the way you did in concrete language. So specifically, what did you do? I want to make sure that you understand that, this isn't all about what grades you get. It's really about conceptually thinking about what it looks like to be evaluating a social work position. All social workers, most of them anyway, do self-evals. And when you're documenting, like I'm in the process of doing my self-eval for last year, I have to document concrete, tangible things I did, not what I think I did or how well I thought I did it. I had to say, why did I think I exceeded in that area? And so you use, sometimes numbers, counting numbers of clients you served or number of success stories or things like that. And the other reason it's really important to be very detailed and provide good evidence in your self-evaluation is because if you feel that you were rated unfairly by your field instructor, then we will go back and look at your self-evaluation. And if you have actually provided some really significant, substantial documentation to support a higher rating than your field instructor gave you, then we can change the rating ourselves, or the field liaison. And when we change the rating, it moves your score higher. So, it's not something we do, randomly. Student has to request it, but, you have to be really detailed. So, it's not going to be helpful if you don't have really good information there. It's not going to help your cause, I guess. Any questions about that? Okay. So here's just an example of a student who rated herself above expectations in this competency. Responds appropriately to the supervisor relationship and understands and accepts the role of the student in the practicum setting. And then the student wrote this last paragraph here on the slide. I'll let you read that. But you can see how the student actually documented very specifics, counting assessments, and also providing feedback, qualitative, feedback on the assessments from the field instructor. And so this would probably, be a student who really exceeded because, this may not be the norm for a lot of students at this level. So how does the final grade work? Well, there's a grading worksheet that is on the website. You can take a look at the grading worksheet. So what we do is each of your, when you go back, let me go back here. So each of these rating categories has a numerical value. So there's a number for each one of those. Like I think exceeds is 5 and meets is, and I don't have these committed to memory, but I think it's maybe 4.5 and I can't remember, maybe 4, but there's numerical values attached to all of these. I will tell you that the unable to observe is a new one we added, and it has the same numerical value as meets expectation. The reason being is because students that got a lot of unable to observe or not applicables would be at a disadvantage because you had a smaller number of total rating categories, and that meant that it was harder to get an A if you only had 10 rather than 19. So we wanted to be fair, so we made the same numerical value for unable to observe as meets expectations. So that's how the field liaisons calculated. And actually, when you do when your field instructor completes the evaluation and they download it into a PDF, there's a number at the bottom of the PDF form, and that is how many total points you scored. And that's what we use to plug into the grading worksheet. So if you happen, just in general, got all exceeds, of course, you're going to get an A or an A minus. You got to remember, this is 75% weight towards your grade. So all the field evaluations across all field courses count 75% weight, and that 25% weight is from other sources, and I'll show that to you in a minute. So basic, you're still going to get a B or B plus, and you need a B to pass. B minus is not passing. And then, of course, if you're got predominantly improvement needed or unsatisfactory, you're not going to pass, of course. So this is for undergrad students. You could see the 75% is the field evaluation, and then off of that, you lose, if you miss submitting documents, you lose 3% for each document you didn't submit, like a learning plan and midterm. And a late document has a 1.5% point reduction. And your 25% grade is going to go to your field seminar. And there's 25 total points you get for the field seminar. So that includes your attendance, participation, and completion of assignments. And you will know what your grade is along every week, because we have a grade book in there. And every time you have attendance or get graded on a paper, boom, it goes into the grade book, and you can see your running score. For graduate students, there's just a 721, and this is the only course that has 3 grading components other than 2. And the difference is because you're doing the field MSW field assignments, which is 15% of your grade. I'm sorry, 15%. And then 10% for the field seminar. So it's a bit different weight given, but again, 75% toward your evaluation, and it's the same deduction for missing documents or late documents. And all the rest of the graduate courses after 721 are going to be broken down between the field evaluation your field instructor does and your assignments. Now, we do not grade your assignments, so we review them. Your field instructor reviews them first, gives you feedback. We review them, and as long as they're professionally written, you spell check, you grammar check, you wrote them like we would expect an MSW student to do, and they're relevant to what you were doing in your field practicum. So, you're not going to write a paper or do research on, homeless youth if you're working in a skilled care facility with older adults. It's not relevant. So it really has to be related to what you're doing in the practicum. And so we give you the points as we review your assignments. And if there's a problem, we'll let you know. Sometimes you have to redo something. Most of the time, the easy way to get to 25 points. Questions about that? Reading MSW assignments.
I have a question. Hi. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I can hear you. I just had a question about the seminar. So, do we only have to attend one, and then there's like 15 of them that count towards?
What course are you in, Andrea?
The BSW, the undergraduate.
Yeah, so all undergrad students attend every week for 50 minutes. It's a 50-minute class, and it's always scheduled either right before your methods class or right after. So you're not coming to campus for just separate for this field seminar. So it's going to be paired with 410. So you'll be in 410, and then you'll either go to the seminar right before 410 or right after this semester. Yeah. And the same thing with MSW students in 721. It's going to be right before or after the methods course.
That scheduled into like our time, like our class like block, or no? Is it before is it like separate? Like I should make sure that I don't like job
Yeah,
or
you should it should be on when you registered for 421. You should have selected your seminar right then when you registered for 421.
okay, I think I did. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Other questions? Okay. We do have a thing called a field course incomplete, and a lot of students in field need to utilize this. Field is a lot to take on. I know a lot of you have a lot going on in your life with classes and, your family responsibilities, your job, your homework, your field. It's a lot. And sometimes things happen and you get behind and you're not able to get done by the end of the semester, which is fine. You don't need to worry about that. We have a form on the website called a field course incomplete request. You fill that out, your field instructor of the agency signs off on it, so they have to agree to it. And then you submit it to your liaison. And then when it's time to grade you that semester, we just put an I there. And it doesn't affect your grade point average. And then as soon as you're finished with the course, you're going to upload all your documents into the Canvas site, and you're going to email your field liaison and say, I finished all my requirements for 421 or 721, whatever it is. And then they will go ahead and review it and grade you. And then they'll change the I in pause to the letter grade that you've earned. So, again, don't worry about using this. Like, it doesn't have any negative effect, but it helps give you a little bit of extra time to finish your field requirements. Andrea, there's the seminars every week. Yeah. And for undergrads, it's both semesters. So it's a seminar class basically, and they all count towards field hours. You get 1 hour credit for every seminar you attend. Questions on an incomplete?
Oh,
I will say, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just have a question. So I'm looking at my pause and it just says, is it the social work lab on 421, the 5?
That's right. It's called a lab. It's also called,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I have it on my schedule.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Thank
okay.
you.
Good to ask. I will tell you, if you're a graduate student, the only thing about the incomplete is you can't take it in your graduating semester. The graduate school wants you to be finished with everything by the time you graduate. So make sure that you're navigating your schedule. So by the time you're done with 822, your last field course, you're actually done and you're not taking an incomplete, because it could push you into graduating the following semester, and nobody wants that. Sometimes agencies will want you to transport clients in their vehicle. We really discourage that. Most agencies do not ask you to do that, but sometimes the child welfare agencies do, or some other random agency. But there is a form you have to complete before you're allowed to do that. So you'll ask your field liaison for the form. We don't have it on the website because we don't really want to encourage this. But it's a basically acknowledgement of liability form. So, but if you're just driving to a client appointment, you're not having anybody in your car, that's different. You don't need to worry about that. Make sure you follow all the COVID safety protocols at the agency and follow good practices that CDC recommends. We did have a student recently who got disciplined at the agency because she had symptoms and didn't tell anybody and didn't do a test, and went and exposed everybody at the office and all the clients, and then found out later on that day that she was positive for COVID. And so it was not a good thing. She should have certainly not shown up and said she had symptoms and needed to be tested before she went in. So now you can order those tests off the government website. So please do that so you have them readily accessible. And that you can actually show the results of the test to your field instructor if they ask. And there's no charge for them. So these are some of the things that may come up. And, again, I like to say that you learn your best lessons in life, not from the things that come easy for you, but the difficulties that you face in life. And that's where really the hard lessons, but the good lessons come from. So you want to make sure that, you're working through these when they come up. And the worst thing to do is avoid them. And oh, thank you, Lucas, for putting the COVID test order site is Lucas was kind enough to put it in the chat, so you can click into that and order your tests. Anything if you're having personal difficulty, we've had a definite uptick with students since the pandemic in anxiety and depression, and just having a lot of difficulty managing. So we've seen it all, and most of us are licensed clinical social workers in field. So don't be uncomfortable letting us know what's going on. We want to help you navigate through this process of field. So the more we know, sometimes the better it is for us to help you. If you have something ethical that's happening at the agency, you've tried to address it with your field instructor, but don't feel that that went terribly well, then you can talk to your liaison about it. If you're not getting the supervision that you needed weekly, maybe they're not giving you enough duties or tasks that really are challenging you, or they're giving you too much and you're overwhelmed and you're not able to get your field instructor to understand how you're feeling. That could be an opportunity to talk to your field liaison. Or all of a sudden, there's a shortage of clients and they've cut your hours down and you're only getting 8 hours a week and you need 16. That's not good. So we need to know about it so we can troubleshoot. Any difficulties with the client population that you're serving or safety issues, or, if you're having a difficult time with your field instructor, and sometimes that happens, you all probably had bosses that, you didn't care for, but you had to work with them. So you had to figure out. So conflict management is a big part of social work. And you're always going to find people, whether it be staff or supervisors or clients that you have difficult time working with, but you have to figure out how to do it. So it's another great way to develop new skills. You can't leave an agency because it's not working out. You've made the commitment. And so you need to talk to your field liaison. If you just abandon the field placement, then essentially it's not you didn't pass a course. So, we can't treat our agencies like that because, we rely on them to run our program. So we have to make sure that we're, mutually respectful to one another. And, again, it's about conflict resolution, problem solving. So we want you to use the resources available for self-care. Here's a list of some of them on campus. Please, don't feel uncomfortable, use them. A lot of our students are using them. And, you hopefully will be able to get the assistance you need to be less stressed out. Don't forget they have a food pantry too. I don't know if that's in here. I don't think that was in. So I just want to briefly talk about some opportunities, and I'm gonna have some time for questions, and then Mark Herstad from NASW is going to be with us the last 15 minutes and talk about all the great things that NASW is doing for us, for you, for our clients, and why it's important that you think about getting involved, because I don't think it's ever been so critical as it is now. So these are opportunities for MSW students. So this is for both the MSWs on this program, but also for BSWs. Because if you're thinking about going for your MSW, these are great opportunities available to you. And really, most MSW programs do not have them. So we've got YOSAT 2 counseling. You should have gotten emails about these programs. And then we've got the DPI of the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction collaboration. So YOSAT 2 is available to any MSW student. There is some prioritization of students of color or students that are bilingual, first generation students. And the goal of this grant, which is a federal HRSA grant, is to increase ethnic and linguistic diversity in communities, especially communities of color where they're providing mental or behavioral health services. So what we've seen disproportionately is, you may have 80% of the clients that are serving the agency are clients of color, and then you've got 80% of the staff are Caucasian. And so there's really an effort on a federal basis to try and change that and have the staff represent more closely the clients being served. So again, but any student can apply. If you're, you do have to have a clinical placement and you have to be focused on clinical mental behavioral health. You can go into the website, it will tell you the requirements, but both of these programs require the trauma-informed care certificate. And $10,000 is the fellowship for this program, and you get it in, excuse me, your last 2 semesters of field, 821 and 822. And there's a link to applying for YOSAT 2. And again, this PowerPoint will be available after the program. And apply as early as possible. The DPI, this is for school social workers or postgraduates. We are providing the same type of scholarship, $10,000 for MSW students, $5,000 for each of the 2 semesters you're in your school placement. And for postgraduates, it's $5,000 for the semester that they're doing 921 field. And this is a collaboration again with DPI, and it's got a similar objective. The same problem exists in the Milwaukee or the Wisconsin public school system. Disproportionately, the schools are not represented ethnically by the staff. So we're trying to increase diversity and linguistic, especially bilingual Spanish in our school social work population. So it's another great opportunity, and also increasing the mental behavioral health competence of our school social workers. So that's why we're asking everyone to do the TIC certificate. Some other opportunities available in our MSW program. Well, no, actually, this is BSW and MSW programs. Study abroad. So we are doing the Austria program. I've done information sessions last couple of weeks, and the application will be up soon on the CIE website for students to apply for. I'm not going to go into all the details about it. It's a 2-week program in Austria. I've been on it several times, and it's a really wonderful program. The first week is a international social work conference where you get to interface with social work students and social work faculty from across the globe. It's really very, very profound, and you get to have a lot of cultural experiences as well while you're there. It is an elective course, so whether you're an undergrad or a grad, it's going to be 3 elective credits in your program, which meets part of your graduation requirements. The second week in Austria, the first week is a conference, the second week is a site visits and lectures and some more cultural experiences. Costa Rica, we're hoping to get back up and running. We've been on sabbatical for 2 years because of the pandemic. Hopefully in winterim of 2023, which would be the first 2 weeks in January, right after New Year's. Usually we go like on the 2nd. And we go during their summer season. So it's beautiful there. And it's a Spanish and cultural immersion program. So you take Spanish classes and you also get immersed in the culture and learn about social service systems in Costa Rica. And we have, some fun while we're there. We go to the Manuel Antonio National Park on the ocean, and it's where all the monkeys hang out, and it's beautiful, beautiful area. And you stay with host families in that program. So think about that. These are all courses, so they are covered by your financial aid. And there was also some scholarships available. So I'm not going to get into all that now, but I do want to take a quick pause here to see if anybody has any questions. Our guest speaker will be here in a few minutes if he's not here already. And I have one more slide to show you just for school social work students. So I'm going to go forward on to that slide while I'm going to field questions. But I just want to say, in kind of summing this part up, your field practicum will offer you new challenges, professional growth, professional development opportunities, potentially employment. A lot of our students get hired onto the agencies where they intern. And you're going to develop relationships. And sometimes those are lifelong relationships, both professionally and personally. So it usually ends up being a very positive experience for students. So I'm going to let this slide just have you view it if you're a school social work student, and give you an opportunity to ask questions. But in the meantime, I want to just open it up to questions in general about any of the content we covered so far. Wow, no questions at all?
I have a question. You said that if we were to complete our hours and all of our required assignments early, that you can just continue on into the summer semester?
Right. So, yeah, you got to re-register for summer, but yes. Mhm.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Jesse?
Yeah, when you said May 1st, you're talking about like the spring semester. That's when we should try and finish our hours just to be like comfortable and not be like rushing.
Exactly, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
because the official semester ends like in the middle of May. So that would give you a couple extra weeks to start your summer. So you wouldn't have to necessarily increase your hours to get finished with your second semester.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Okay, school social work students, any questions about this slide? Keandra Hagens, again, will be your primary contact person, but she wanted me to include this information just because school social work students are in a little bit different sort of trajectory than other students. And if you're in a block placement, and I'm not spending a lot of time on this because she'll talk to you about it, but we do drop the midterm progress reports in block placements for those students. Just because otherwise it's just too many evaluations. But again, she'll walk you through all the details of that. Okay. NASW Wisconsin, and it's a very dynamic chapter. Asked him to come and just talk about some of the things that are really critical to social work, and also to talk about how you can get involved. It's a good time to get involved when you're a student, because it's the time when you're not having to pay the normal rate. It's very, very inexpensive. It's like $60, I think. So I'm just checking to see if maybe he sent me a email. It's having trouble getting on. Just hang in there with me for a second. I don't see an email, but I've been getting phone calls while I'm in here. So looks like I might have gotten something from him. I'm gonna go send him the link again. Okay. Well, it's peculiar that he's not here because he showed up right on time yesterday. So I'm going to give him a few more minutes. And I just want to say, just in, following up with the NASW, I've been a member since I graduated with my BSW, which was a long time ago. And I have just found the organization to be incredible for my career, for networking, opportunities to be able to present and also take my continuing ed at the conference, which is much more affordable. I use them as, colleagues and mentors and resources for support. You can throw emails out to members and get answers to things. It keeps you from feeling less isolated. And also there's so many great committees to participate in to really make a difference. I'm on the Legislative Advocacy Committee, and we help, review bills that are pending in Wisconsin, and we vote on whether or not to support them. So it's a pretty important committee to be on, but there's all sorts of committees, and it really makes you feel like you're contributing to the profession. And you're also on top of advocating for not only yourself as a social worker, but the funding that goes to the programs that you're in. The better funded your programs are, the better salaries you get. NASW has been on the leader in trying to get the tuition waived for people that are in that take jobs like in public child welfare and other areas, high risk areas, to get their student loans forgiven. I was forgetting the loan forgiveness program. The loan forgiveness program is something that social work has really been leading the charge on. And wouldn't it be nice if you could get your loans forgiven? So I mean, these are really important things that are going to impact you as well as your clients, because a lot of the money in these public policies and how things get funded directly affects your clients. So, again, it's just a really great organization. But I don't see Mark here for some reason. So I'm not gonna keep you all since he must be having some kind of difficulty getting on. So I will go ahead and sign off here unless there's other questions. There's one here from Lucas. If you're planning on doing school placements upcoming fall, what's the deadline for the placement application? Great question, Lucas. February 15th. The school social work applications are due earlier, and also the VA for grad students, they're due in March 1st. So those are the two placements that have a different schedule for application deadlines. So February 15th for school placements in fall. If you have a difficulty and are starting late, will that just bulk up your weekly hours, or would it affect your end date? Well, Katie, it just depends on what's going to work for you. You're just going to want to map it out on your calendar. Sometimes students decide if they're in that situation, they don't want to end the semester too late. Sometimes they just take the advantage of spring break and do more hours in spring break. So that they can catch up. So whatever works for you, it's not one size fits all. Other questions? All right, well, I'm going to close this. I'll stop recording here. And